This is Paul Levy here, the editor of Fringe Review, in a slightly noisy cafe in Fringe Review's home city of Brighton. But this is a new cafe that's opened that looks rather like lots of other cafes, but they do leaf tea, and it gives me an opportunity to focus a little bit of advice on something that has been increasing over many years at Edinburgh, but has really taken off post-COVID, and even more in the last couple of years, which is shows not playing the whole run at Edinburgh. And quite often, if you play 3 weeks in Edinburgh, it kind of means you're playing 4 weeks, because there is, and has been for a while, a week zero where you have previews and so on. And previews have been a really good place, along with venue launches, to start building awareness of your show, so you can hit the ground running on what would be a long run of 3 weeks, running throughout August at the Edinburgh Fringe. What's happening now is literally hundreds of shows are arriving in week 2, and quite an increase in number, probably hundreds too, if not near 1,000, are arriving right in the last week of the Fringe. And I've recorded videos before about how important it is not to be in a kind of negative narrative around that. It's not that you're not playing the 3 weeks, it's that you're playing these weeks, and it's become a thing. So Fringe Review is invited to some of the bigger venues. A given example would be the Space UK, which has hundreds of shows arriving in the last week. So they arrange their own press event where shows can meet the media and pitch their shows as they arrive. And I would suggest a few years ago, quite a lot of journalists and reviewers were a little bit punitive towards shows that were not committing to the whole 3 weeks. Certainly not everybody, but they'd say, what's the point in reviewing your show in the last week? By the time the review's up, it won't be able to, reach the audience up in Edinburgh and the readers and so on. But actually now it's become much more about getting reviews also for your onward journey. You might have a tour booked. And to say you've been to Edinburgh and got a good review still has a certain brand value. So what does that all mean? Well, I think practically it means if you're not up for week 0 and the first week, you still need to get the attention of the media, who are very much focused on that first week. And that can be quite difficult to do, but make sure that your narrative, that the story isn't that we're only coming in the last week. Just state the dates, state how long you're playing. And I would say part of the narrative has to be, particularly in the last week or the second week, is news about where your show is going onwards, because reviewers don't want to feel they're just writing for Edinburgh and it's not going to get read. This is their writing. Whereas if you say, and we're then moving on towards, in September, our tour, there are some Fringe festivals playing in September, you've already got dates booked. Even further ahead, then say what they are, so that the reviewer can feel their review is going to land not just in Edinburgh but have a life going forwards. And tell them that, because it will, and even spell it out that I need a review from you, not just for the last couple of days of the Fringe but way beyond. We're up here and we're going onwards. There's a continuing story. Very similar in week 2. If you're arriving and then you're going again, reviewers can feel a bit like, well, what's the point in giving you a review if you're gone again? And perhaps it's harder in week 2 if you're not playing week 3. But if you're not, but you can have gigs booked in that last week, and that's one of the reasons you're coming up to Edinburgh, and your show's already busy, then again, reviewers can see that their review quotes, their reviews are going to land as you move onwards, even if it's out of Edinburgh. So you need the positive story. You don't need to be in a place where you feel like you're making compromises, and you need to be bold about you're not just a one-hit wonder in Edinburgh. If you play that card, we're just up to Edinburgh to have a bit of fun, we're just doing this, we might see where it goes later, I think you're going to struggle to get reviews. If you are doing that, some reviewers might be interested in coming to something that's very experimental and saying we're trying it out this year in Edinburgh to see what feedback we can get. That might respond well, particularly if you look up reviewers and see what they've reviewed before, because it may well be that they have reviewed work in progress stuff before, but you'll tend to find some of those reviewers will take a punt on something that is new and experimental. And if you've done that successfully in the past, you're obviously going to refer to that provenance, to work that you've done in the past. Perhaps they reviewed you last year and then the show went on to be a success, and you've got the quotes of that reviewer on a poster or a flyer from a previous show, and let them know, in case they've forgotten, that there's an ongoing journey that actually began in the past. It's not just starting at Edinburgh. But if it is, if it's a new experiment, make a virtue of this is in the early days and you're trying something out. So if you're only playing week 1, it becomes really important to specify where this show is going. beyond. If you're playing week 2, very similar again, this is going beyond, but particularly because it's week 2 and only for 1 week, I would say what's the news around where it's playing end of August, last week of August, early September and so on. If you're playing the final week, that's where I just think it needs to be really clear. This show's come from somewhere, and it's got some provenance, it's come from somewhere, and it's playing this week. These are the dates, because that's becoming more around the new normal. So to summarise, remember everyone's going to be in meltdown during August in the last week of July. It's quite hard to get the attention of the media, but reviewers may well be coming up only for the last week now. So you need to, at least in the week before the Fringe starts, ideally 2 weeks before, getting the show on the radar again, being really, really clear about the dates. Shows for week 2 and week 3, you need to make it one click easy for them to get review tickets. It mustn't take 2 or 3 days to find the right contact. Set it up with your venue if you can, but try and make it, if possible, that your PR or even you can sort them out a review ticket as easy as possible, as immediately as possible. And so that they're not chasing for a show, because there simply isn't the time for them to chase it. So lots of ideas there, but overall make it a positive narrative around why you're playing a particular set of dates rather than why you're not playing the whole Fringe.